All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Chris Crenshaw, and we are live from the 704 once again for episode 254 of the 815 Exchange. And well, listen, we've got NCAA track and field championships to talk about. That's going to kick us off today. We've got the WNBA returning to a major segment because, well, Caitlin Clark is back. That's all that really needs to be said. We had AJ, Tracey, and Lil Tecca dropping music. And we've got Love Island USA. That was a special request. The people want to hear me talk about Love Island. So we can talk Love Island for a little bit, I guess, in what is going to be a stacked entertainment segment. We also, of course, have the Stanley Cup Finals, the NBA Finals. We've got Game 6, Game 5 cooking up. All right. What's going on here? What are we looking at? What was I right about yet again this week? Not to be arrogant. All right, and then in the roundup, we've got the Montreal Grand Prix. Young Kimmy, Papaya not ruling today in Canada. PJ Duke beat Yanni. And of course, we got to talk about who won the US Open. But as always, remember to like, share, and subscribe if you guys are enjoying the content. And as always, all right, everything you're looking for in this life, all right, except for the food and drink, I hope you can sit back, relax, and get before you start this. All right, get settled before we start talking, start yapping. But everything else can be found in my description. All right, social media links, description. Timestamps, description. All right, also embedded in the video, social media links, also in the outro of this. So ladies and gentlemen, like I said, we got to talk about NCAA. So let's get to the track. All right, let's get to track town because who got it done this year? All right, we've got Georgia winning the women. All right, Elena Kolachenko back-to-back long jump champion. I know they are going to be glad to see Elena. I feel like I've seen her, it feels longer than 3 years that I've seen her win the natty there. But yeah, she was a big reason why, getting those points once again in the high jump, I think it's a long jump. But yeah, Aaliyah Butler was the star of the show there for the Bulldogs. All right, 400. Took that down. She also is already an Olympic medalist in that, all right. As a member of the 4x4 last year, she took part in the semifinal for the Olympics. So yeah, congrats to Aaliyah. She also wins the 4x4 here for Georgia. So yeah, Georgia women, they've been building a great program. Ever since the head coach from USC came over, I think 2 or 3 years ago, they've been kind of building towards this. So yeah, I'm not really surprised to see Georgia go into track town and take the women's national championship. The men, however, all right, before we get to these individual performers, won by Texas A&M, who won through some individual brilliance. Shout out to Sam Whitmarsh for winning the 800. But also USC. All right, they tie. Rare sight we see here in the world of track and field. But we have co-national champions here on the men's side. USC, Fido, and of course, and Texas A&M. Both get it done. USC just sent a lot. Their track team has been number 1 ranked damn near the entire year. I'm not even gonna lie to you. They just had a bunch of guys, a great sprint program. Which is USC, that's what they do. But I felt like they had 15 finalists. It was the same thing in the women, low key. They finished second there. But yeah, it was absolutely loaded. All right, absolutely loaded with people. And they just kept getting points. Not a lot of individual winners. If they had any, actually, on the men's side, now that I think about it. But just the accumulation of points, they were the best team. They tied with Texas A&M, who had those little more spurts of individual brilliance. And yeah, we have co-national championships for the men. Talking about some of the great individual performances here really quickly. Maya Lesnar, yes, Lesnar, Brock Lesnar's daughter. It's really hard to miss her. If you look at Maya, it's really obvious that she's Brock's, her mother's genes did not even put up a fight, which of course, going against Brock Lesnar's genes kind of makes sense. But yeah, she is the real deal. All right, she's the real deal. Want to be the real deal for America. She won the shot put, won the national championship. She's been on a steady climb. All right, wasn't just her last name. She's got the goods as well. And yeah, congrats to Maya. She does win the natty there. Serena Sullivan, and what was potentially, honestly, maybe the biggest story coming out of this national championships, besides, the top winners, was Serena Sullivan yesterday breaking Sydney. Listen, if you're breaking a Sydney McLaughlin record, you're doing something crazy. But yes, she breaks Sydney McLaughlin-Lavroni, of course, now. Her 400 meter that she broke as a freshman in Kentucky stood, we thought, probably for a very long time. But no, Sutherland crushes it by 0.29 seconds. She was a 52.46 to smash that record, take the Canadian national record as well in that event. So, yeah, very, very impressive performance from Serena. She's been great all year. Obviously, you're in the finals. Anybody in the finals. But Serena's been around. All right, not necessarily a new name, but I don't think anybody was expecting the record, and not everybody was expecting her to just completely obliterate Sid's record like this. So yeah, crazy. Of course, that's tied with Femke for the second fastest time this year. Of course, you know who the fastest time belongs to. Okay, you know who the fastest time belongs to. We're not at that record yet for Serena, but yeah, Canada might have something cooking there. I might have something cooking. The 100 meters for the men's was absolutely loaded with football players. Absolutely loaded with football players. All right, Jordan Anthony plays football for Arkansas. All right, he won the 100 here, but then he went pro. All right, so for Gore's his football. Well, I think he may still have football. I'm interesting to see how that works. But for Gore's eligibility, he going pro after winning the 100 here. And he won it. I mean, very good time. Again, I'm seeing a lot of young Americans running under 10 seconds. I don't know what to think. I don't know if this season we moving different or if it's just like a potential golden generation. But yeah, my eyes have been open because I feel like in the past month or two, every time I'm checking the track news, we got somebody running under 10 seconds. That's like U23. Which, of course, I ain't mad at. But yeah, Jordan Anthony cooks up here, wins the Natty, and then goes pro. Jelani Watkins, another football player. He gets the bronze. I think he finished third. I believe Jelani finished third. Of course, was part of that famed Acta Soda. They broke the 4x1 record in high school. It was them in Duncanville that were just going absolutely nuts. Again, another Duncanville team stacked with football players that all almost played for LSU, almost funny enough, but now we're kind of spread apart. Caden Durham, Darkorian Moore, who we're going to get very familiar with in the coming years with Oregon. But yeah, Jelani, he gets third as a freshman. So yeah, a lot of football players in that 100. But yeah, still really good race. And yeah, that was the Natties. That was the NCAAs. Congrats to the UGA women. And congrats, going to the USC men and gig 'em. All right, congrats to the Texas A&M men. They win the national championships this year. Let's talk about the W. All right, let's talk about the W. I want to talk about the W. It's been a minute. All right, but I'm not going to lie to you. It was kind of dry. All right, not MLB regular season currently dry. But, it was a little dry without Kate. Let's be real. She's the needle mover here. All right? She is the needle. There's a reason. And we saw it in her return game from the quad strain against the undefeated number one team in the W, reigning defending champions, the New York Liberty, who, to be fair, were missing Jonquel Jones and another starter. So, not full health Liberty, but still nonetheless best team in the league. And guess what? This Indiana Fever team, I know the record says 500 now after yesterday's win, but this is a different team with Kate, and especially when Kate is operating at the level we saw in that game yesterday. I mean, she was an absolute supernova. All right, it became very apparent. I'm going to call her the Rainmaker. All right, in wrestling, all right, there's this wrestler named Kazuchika Okada, came from Japan. All right, and in that promotion in Japan, in JPW, he was a young phenom, and they called him the Rainmaker. That was his gimmick, right? That was his character, the Rainmaker, because he's going to make it rain dollars for New Japan, and that's what he did. I'm giving Caitlin Clark the Rainmaker moniker. Not just because she's going to make it and is already making it rain millions of dollars for the W, but also because, ladies and gentlemen, she's just making it rain on the court. All right, those back-to-back threes were, I haven't felt like that since I saw her at Iowa. That was Iowa Caitlin. That was Iowa Caitlin growing up into now Indiana Caitlin. All right? Just CC being CC. All right? She had the ultimate green light and she was firing from wherever, and that was the tone setter. All right? She has, I think, 25 she finishes with in the first half, 7 threes or something fucking insane. Yeah, she looked like, for that first half, looked like the best player on the planet. I'm not going to sit and lie to you. All right? Not saying she is already, but for that first half, she looked like it. Cooled down a little bit in that second half, but you had Kels and, Aaliyah still contributing, still cooking. And, yeah, it was a great win and a great game for Caitlin, a great game for the Fever. Y'all got to chill on Stephanie White. I already saw the, fire Stephanie, which was absolutely insane. All right? She cooking. Let her cook. Let her cook. She got a star back. Let her cook. And again, that, rotation with Caitlin, Kelsey, Sophie, Lexi, and Aaliyah, I think might be their best lineup. As much as I love DeWanna Bonner and Natasha, that might be the lineup right now. All right, that might be like the depth lineup right now for the Fever. It definitely worked here against the Liberty and helped them go on those runs and really open up the court for Caitlin to really cook. And yeah, there was still elements. She could have 40 in this game if she played a little bit better in that second half and hit her free throws. That's the only thing they're struggling with right now is free throws. She could have easily had 40 in this game and potentially a 40-point triple-double. So, yeah. Caitlin, back to business. The needle is back. The Rainmaker has returned. Sabrina, by the way, had 34. So, yeah, shout out to Sab. Still had a very good game. The Liberty, they'll be fine. All right, they'll be fine. But the Fever make a statement here in Caitlin's return. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chicago Sky have won another game. Yes, they've won another game. And, of course, because they just, for some reason, cannot be separated, even though there's really no comparison. I mean, to be honest, there's really no comparison. Yeah, Angel had the first triple-double of her career, and I had to talk about this game, all right? Still didn't shoot well, all right? She still has to work on the offensive side of the ball in terms of scoring. However, she's always been a very good playmaker, especially for a big. She showed off the full clip. Again, this is a Sky team that really is struggling with guard play, and they need somebody to step up into those positions and be that playmaker, be that facilitator. We've seen her tease those elements of being a point forward, almost a la Alyssa Thomas, and she stepped in that role perfectly here against the Connecticut Sky. She had 11, 13, 11. All right, for the triple-double. She also had 3 steals and 2 blocks. So a good defensive game as well for Angel. Again, not a great shooting night. Got to clean that up. But she did a little bit of everything. All right, did a little bit of everything. Led the way for the Sky. They got a much, much needed win. Haley Van Lilith also had her best game of her career. So shout out to HBL. She had 16 off the bench. So, yeah, Sky. I mean, they really got no choice. But, yeah, lean on those young kids. Let them grow. Going to be some growing pains. But, things are looking up. I still believe in AR. All right, I still believe in AR. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about entertainment. F1's not out for another week, 2 weeks. So, no movies. But like I said we're going to talk about Love Island. So, let's talk about Love Island, yeah? Let's talk about Season 7. All right, even though it's going to be outdated because there's a recoupling tonight. But we'll get to that, okay? Status with the couples. I think the bombshell, again, I saw a lot of talk about the male bombshells and how they look. Listen, stay off my boys. All right, Jalen and Pepe. Y'all cool with Pepe now. All right, y'all need to ease off my boy Jalen. All right, my Georgia boy. All right, relax on him. He's not that bad. Like, y'all acting like he was like Shrek. Like, calm down. Now, Oleandra is again, I don't know what Taylor was talking about, he not being attracted to her, because that's actually insane, because that's one of the top 5, probably baddest women I've ever seen in the history of the show. Easily. But I digress. I digress. I think Oleandra and Jalen coupling it up. I really think we are going to pull off this Iris and Jeremiah, because Jeremiah is firmly in the I hate my girlfriend phase. Seen it before, maybe even been there. And yeah, he's done with her. All right, he's done with Huda. I know Huda's supposed to be our NC rep, but, she don't got it right now. She's a little bit insane, a little bit cuckoo, fine as hell. But, I mean, absolutely, just, she's a lot. She's a lot. She's a lot. She be doing the most. She be doing the most. Not that Jeremiah's, guilt-free, scotch-free there. But, yeah, they were scheming too much, so that's about to get broken up. And I think he's looking for her out right now. Anyway, Ace was almost a client of mine. I can't co-sign him anymore. I'm done with the whole him and Shelly thing. I'm not gonna lie. All right, y'all either need a couple up tonight, or I'm off it. I'm off it because he's showing a lot of signs that he's feeling Iris. Which, hey, you want to go play in the milk? Ain't nothing wrong with it. I play in the milk too. Sometimes. But you got shells right here, and y'all doing this. Will they? Won't they? I'm not here for it. Just not here for it. Shelly better not pick Austin. All right, but I feel like she's going to. Even though her and Austin, and she's going to try to force it with Austin, even though she has nothing. All right? They have no sexual chemistry, which is insane because Shelly is like Shelly, but Austin is just like, he's funny as hell, though. I will give that to Austin. Austin's very funny. Very funny, but they have no business. They have absolutely no chemistry. Me and I don't know. The remote have more chemistry than Shelly and Austin. All right, it's sometimes hard to watch. I'm being honest with you. Being honest with you. Nick and Sierra, I want the best for them, but I don't know how that's gonna go. Charlie, it's not looking good for you, my boy. Because Hannah has definitely moved on to Pepe. I'm not gonna lie. Straddling your girl on the second night is a sticky situation, my brother. It's a sticky situation. That's a sticky one to be in. I couldn't be me, or I wouldn't want it to be me. I can't say it couldn't be me because you never know. Sometimes they going, and she is definitely going. All right, but more power to her. It's Love Island. That's what you're supposed to do. All right. I got no problem with mad moves. Still, this relatively early into the show, but all right, I think that covers everything. All right, I think that covers everything. Anybody else? Taylor, you might be going home tonight, brother. All right, because Jalen and Oleandra, like I said, Nick, he's gonna be fine. He's good TV. All right, he's like chaotic. He's like yeah, it's like chaotic good at this point. Really more like chaotic neutral or like lawful neutral. I don't know. Nah, he's not lawful neutral. But Nick is good TV. All right, he's a whore, but he's not like a malicious, you know? And I gotta respect that. As somebody that may be victim to that sometimes, I gotta respect that. All right, I gotta respect Nick. I like him and Sierra together. Sierra's dope. All right, I'm a big fan of Sierra. All right, if I had a clientele, as they talk about on Twitter, Sierra would probably be one of my clients. But yeah, good stuff. Good season so far. Not I ain't gonna compare it to season 6 yet, because season 6 was season 6, but I think we're gonna find out a lot tonight. Alright, let me just put it like that. We're gonna find out a lot tonight. Let's talk about music though. Alright, Tecca dropped Dopamine. Alright, which I didn't know was coming until like 2 weeks ago, and then he was like, oh yeah, I'm dropping an album. And you know what? I appreciate it. I appreciated this project. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I'm gonna give it 8.5. It's not like an album of the year contender for me, but I really liked it. I really, really did like it. Lil Tecca's really become one of my favorite artists. I'm not gonna lie to you. He's been putting out some hits. Pretty consistently been putting out some hits. Saving the summer, quote unquote. I think the back half of this album was very, very strong. Malibu's Most Wanted and LYK are probably my two favorites off of 2 listens. And yeah, again, a really good project, man. Really, really good project from Tecca. Really strong project. He's been very, very consistent. Very, very consistent, which, with a lot of artists in his generation having those dips, seeing him be that good, that consistency, I like. All right, so I'm gonna give it a 8.5. Again, not album of the year contender, not like a classic, but it was still a very, very good project that I am gonna enjoy throughout, for the summer. All right, for the summer. AJ Tracey also dropped Don't Die Before You're Dead. Second Nature and Proven, I think, are my favorites off of first listen. I'm going to give this. I'm actually gonna hold off on a rating on this until I get that second listen. I don't want to give it a proper rating. I think it's gonna sit in at 8 though. Very similar to Tecca. Not my favorite AJ project of all time. Not like an album of the year contender. I think for now it might end up being, because I can see this aging well. Because AJ's music seems to age well with me, but very good. Still very, very, very good. I enjoyed it. And yeah, a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. A lot of really good album cuts. All right, that were even better than the singles he dropped. And the singles he dropped, we all liked. We talked about them more here. So yeah, AJT drops that. Go super duper co-sign if you're not into UK rap. Go check that out. All right, go check that out. Might change your mind. All right, because we're going to stay on UK because P Money dropped again per usual. Him and Silencer dropped 21:59. And yeah, it was less of him on that like rave tour, which we've been rocking with. But yeah, it was more bars, P Money, and I was here for that. All right, I was here for that. P always delivers. And yeah, shout out to P Money. All right, it was a great week of music. All right, absolutely great week of music. Great, elite week of music. And I didn't talk about all the K stuff that we reacted to. So yeah, great week of music, great week of entertainment. And ladies and gentlemen, we're back for the NHL. All right, National Hockey League, the Stanley Cup Finals. All right, and boy, oh boy, Oilers, you're in a sticky one, aren't you? Because the Florida Panthers dominated yet again. This is back-to-back games. All right, back-to-back games of belt from the Panthers. All right, Marchie, the Rat King, whatever you want to call him. Future Hall of Famer. Yes, future Hall of Famer. And probably, if the Panthers do what they need to do here in Game 6, Conn Smythe winner. All right, Brad Marchand, 2 goals. He's got 20 points here in the playoffs. He's got 6 goals in the Stanley Cup Finals. Once again, I am asking, How? This has to be so painful to watch if you're a Boston Bruin fan. Not that the Florida Panthers are like a rival of y'all, but it has to be so painful. But it also may be a little bit sweet. But man, it has to be bittersweet at that. Watching Marchand still cook like this after y'all, got fleeced. With how his season has gone with Florida and what he has brought to this team to make a Stanley Cup winning team even better here in the playoffs when it matters, this has to hurt. I'm sorry. I would be a little sick, even if Marchand, former captain, was my favorite player, as I'm sure he is for a lot of people in Boston or people that support the Bruins wherever you are. I'd be sick. I'd be a little sick, okay? Because he has been incredible. He has been incredible. He's in a series with the best player on the planet, no debate, and another guy that's also one of the best players on the planet in Dry, and he's looked like the guy. At 37 for Marchand? No notes. No notes. All right? It has been an incredible Stanley Cup Finals for Brad Marchand. Again, 6 goals in 5 games. Multiple, I think 2 multi-goal games. He's not scored in just one of those games so far. Incredible performance. Conn Smythe-worthy performance from Brad Marchand, who is really making a statement. All right, a statement in terms of his Hall of Fame candidacy and that debate. So yeah, Marchand absolutely torching the Oilers. Switched the goalie, didn't matter. Florida's in control right now. All right, they're rolling. All right, they're rolling. But it's not over. All right, when you got McJesus, anything is possible. All right, through McJesus. So it's not over, but the Panthers certainly looking and are definitely in a strong place here to close it out here in Game 6. But we will see. Let's talk about the NBA Finals. Let's talk about the NBA Finals, all right? Last week, OKC had struck back, got back into it. Once again, it's another week of me recording this, and OKC has once again struck back after the Pacers won during the week. It's just kind of back and forth like that. Back and forth we go here, which is what I expected, all right? And I'm glad that more of y'all are seeing the light. However, Game 4 did belong to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They get the win here, 111-104. This was a choke job. I'm not gonna lie to you. This was a choke job. The Pacers had the 3-1. They could see it. And then just collapsed. Now, Scott Foster, the extender, did what he had to do. He did what he had to do. There were some very interesting calls that were made in favor of the Thunder. That's black and white. That's what it was. The extender came through and lived up to his nickname. However, when you shoot, 1 for 6 in the clutch, which is very uncharacteristic of, again, what has been a legendarily clutch Pacers team. Of course, a large part due to Hali, who wasn't great in this game, to put it lightly. Very uncharacteristic. A very uncharacteristic finish for the Pacers, who kind of choked, all right? Who kind of choked this one to the Thunder, who took full advantage, all right? SGA has been the MVP in this series, let's be honest. He has looked like the MVP. He's risen to the occasion, whatever you want to call it, however he's doing it, he's getting it done, all right? He's getting it done when it matters. 35 points in this game. He's averaging 33 in the finals. Through the 4 games, he's looked like, what the MVP is supposed to look like in the finals. All right. He has looked like that. So shout out to Shy. All right. The only thing he did wrong this week was letting his pops go on that podcast and talk crazy. All right. That was the only mistake SGA has made all week. All right. Other than that, cooking. J-Dub, back to it. Let's talk about the other 2 members of the big 3, right? J-Dub, 27. Big reason why they won this game as well is having him have these big performances. If you're going to be all the NBA, you got to be all NBA in the finals. He was all NBA in the finals, so shout out to J-Dub. Got to give credit where credit's due. Chet, a lot of people been on Chet's case, all right? Because he's had some struggle games against Miles Turner and co. and the rest of that Pacers staff. They got into him a little bit, but he struck back with with some vengeance here, all right? 14 and 15. Big time on the boards. So yeah, credit where credit's due to Chet. Gotta show him love where it's credit. We criticize where we criticize, but I gotta go give him his flowers where he deserves his flowers. 14 and 15 here in the finals to help get your team back to a 2-2 series. I gotta give credit where credit's due. Alex Caruso, though. Again, this is the series of depth. 2 very deep teams going back and forth. A lot of these games are not always going to be, again, some of them will be dictated by the superstars, right? By SGA, by Hali, so on and so forth. But it's going to come down to the depth. Who shows up depth-wise? Who steals a game? Who gives that extra bit to push my team over the edge? Alex Caruso. I'm not going to eliminate the Lakers yet again, even though I could, about why the hell he does not play for Los Angeles anymore, or why they didn't pay him his money. But I digress. He continues to be the ultimate glue guy in the entire league. All right, he had 20 points in this game. I cannot stress how important he is a winning basketball player. In possibly its purest form, outside of a superstar connotation, he is a winning basketball player. Alex Caruso plays winning basketball. He plays championship winning basketball. That's all that needs to be said. He is one of the best bench pieces, or just like other non-star pieces, role players, whatever you want to call it, you can have in the league, in my opinion. He showed it here in game 4, 20 for Alex. Tyrese can't go 1 for 7 from 3. That's not going to cut it. And he can't shoot that bad in, clutch, because, not just what he's done, but also because this team leans on him there. All right, leans on him there. Same thing with Nembhard. All right, even though he played, and I don't know why they took Nembhard off of, the defensive responsibility. I know there's some foul trouble, but he's clearly the best defender here against SJA. That's where y'all got to go. All right, that's where y'all got to go, because either way, if you don't, SGA is going to cook whoever else you put there. All right, respectfully. Obi Toppin had 17 and 7, so yeah, he did what he was supposed to do. Spicy P, he's been the X factor for the Pacers, but he wasn't that guy here. All right, 6 for 15. That's not going to get it done. Shout out to the OKC defense for figuring out Siakam. And yeah, we're tied back up. Not the end of the world for the Pacers, but once again, it's a scenario where Pacers had an advantage, had a chance to go up those 2 games, which is huge, obviously, in these close series, and they couldn't get it done. So once again, here for Game 5, it's another super important game and it's even more important because whoever wins this game is 1 away from getting it done. 1 away. Can't flinch here. All right, so we will see what happens, but OKC once again fighting back in the finals. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for the Roundup. All right, we have reached the Roundup. And of course, we got to start with racing. Of course, y'all know traditions here. Montreal. All right, the Montreal Grand Prix has come and it has gone. And listen, Mr. Saturday made it happen on Saturday. That was a crazy finish. With Oscar taking pole, then Max immediately taking pole, and then George saying, "I'm Mr. Saturday," and immediately snatching the chain of both of them to take pole. And then he held on to it and converts the pole today. Happy Father's Day as well. I don't know if I said it in the intro, by the way. So I'm going to say it right now. Happy Father's Day, all right? Happy Father's Day to Mr. Russell, because George gets it done. But it was not without, some excitement here in Montreal. All right, not without some excitement, because it came down to the wire here. All right, Max went for the undercut twice. Mercedes did a great job with strategy, which they needed. After the triple header they had last month, it was, a rough going. So it was a great redemption Sunday for them. Of course, George able to answer the bell and then just kind of run away from Max at the end. Kimmy, all right, they had basically in conjunction with Max, whatever Max did, Kimmy followed, and he did well. And then the 18-year-old did even better to hold off the McLaren of Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. All right, held them off lap after lap after lap after lap with his tires cooked, still holding them off, not making a mistake, doing what had to be done, playing great defense that earns him his first ever podium, and certainly won't be the last podium for young Kimi Antonelli in Formula One. He is the 3rd youngest, behind, of course, the great Max Verstappen and Lance Stroll. All right, and Lance Stroll, the 3rd youngest podium, I can't say winner, but podium sitter. Podium seater, this is what we're going with. All right, 3rd youngest to be on the podium here in F1. So yeah, congratulations to Kimmy. But of course, Papaya, which has been ruling the year, ruling the season. Well, Lando this is one of the moments that has people questioning whether Lando is a future world champion, right? Coming down to the wire, they're both trying to catch Kimmy. Lando has the faster car right now, but Oscar, and they say basically McLaren says, we're not saying any team rules, no Papaya rules, race. And it was for 2 laps, it was a good battle. But then I think on lap, what was it, 63, 64, Lando tries to make the move. He's got DRS. He's got the speed, but he tries to go for a hole on the left side that's not there, realizes it too late, tries to break off, but again, too much speed. He ends up running into Oscar and luckily doesn't, damage Oscar's car too bad that he has to, drop out. But he is unable to finish the race. Lando loses, a huge amount of points here in what has been a very close championship. Now Oscar has an almost entirely a race win lead over Lando in the championship. George, by winning, and Max by getting second, also got that much closer to Lando. So yeah, disaster for Lando, bliss for Mercedes, and yeah, the first crack showing and maybe that McLaren partnership, though they all kind of packed it up and everything seems kosher, but at least on track we did get that collision. Felt very Jenson Button, Lewis Hamilton-esque, all right, from 2011. But nonetheless, Montreal belongs to George in the Mercedes. SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen. He is the road course specialist. He's the king of the road courses. All right, I'm going to say it. All right, he conquers Mexico. All right, a lot of people were like, yo, they figured him out. He's not running the show like he was 2 years ago. It's not as big as like a jump, Did well in Xfinity last year, but, hasn't really been up to par, struggling on those ovals. He's in like 30-something place. Well, Mexico City, first time ever for NASCAR. And, well, he came. He showed up, and he did what SVG has done since he arrived in NASCAR, all right? And that is get the result at the road course. And he is just throwing the chase into the playoffs are in, it's always that, and it happens almost every year, to be honest, where that one random driver that's in 30th place gets that random win and is now kind of throwing the playoffs off. So that's what happened here. SVG gets it done at Mexico. Well done. All right, I have to say, watching the stock cars, watching the NASCARs on road courses is always very entertaining, especially when you throw in some rain. It's like a little bit of a demolition derby. All right, it's a little bit of a demolition derby, and it can be very exciting. But yeah, SVG gets it done in Mexico. Let's talk about combat sports. All right, it was Final X, and we're not going to go through all the results, but there was one very, very big result that happened at Final X this past weekend. Who's joined the USA World Team? PJ Duke beat Yanni. PJ Duke beat Yanni. Unbelievable. And didn't just beat Yanni. He pinned him. 4-time national champ. I think he was the fourth, fifth person to ever do it at the time. One of the greatest collegiate wrestlers of all time. He's already made a world team. Multiple. Reigning world silver medalist. This is one of the best wrestlers in the world. And PJ Duke made his claim for number one high schooler in the country this weekend. Yanni went out and cooked him in the first match. Second match comes, Yanni's cooking, and then all of a sudden PJ he had that lethal shooter. I understand it now. He comes all the way back, stuns Yanni in match 2, and then dominates and pins him in match 3. Penn State and Kale, you have another monster on the way. Yet another generational wrestler headed to Penn State. Good gracious. All right, so PJ Duke, probably not going to be the last time we talk about him on this podcast, considering what he just did. All right, took out Yanni. Absolutely insane. We also had a UFC Fight Night card. All right, headlined by one Kamaru Usman and Yoquan Buckley. Is this finally Buckley's chance to break out? Or does, Unk still got it a little bit? And guess what? Marty still got it a little bit. All right, he gave Buckley to work. All right, there was still some levels to this. All right, this was a little bit of there are levels to this. All right, he gets the easy UD. He dominated. All right, it was pretty close to Wetro, Usman. I'm not saying it was prime Usman, but he showed, hey, I ain't going out like, no bum. All right, I'm not going to the woodshed. I'm not going out like BJ Penn. All right, I still can bang. Maybe not at the world championship level, but I can still contend and knock it. I can still be here. All right, I still belong. All right, and that's what Usman proved. Took out Buckley. Buckley's just never going. He's always going to be one of those guys that's not really even a what if, because I don't think he's necessarily a what if. Like, if he'd have done this, he'd have been, world champion. But he's a guy that the idea of Buckley always will have him better than what he was. You'll always have had those moments where you're like, this guy, maybe he could be a world champion. But it just never came together. It just never, ever came together. And Usman gets it done. This card, which was in Atlanta, had a bunch of brutal KOs on the undercard. All right, Wellmaker. You have my attention, Malcolm. You have my attention, Wellmaker. A brutal KO of Chris Moutinho, who was just re-signed. That was vicious. All right, that was absolutely vicious. Moutinho is the #1 jobber in the UFC, but I don't know if he's still going to have a job after what Mal did to him on Saturday. Ochoa also had an absolutely brutal KO, seconds in the fight of Durden. So yeah, there was some absolute, bangers on this card as well. One of the best fight night cards, I dare say, of the year. So go check out the highlights. But yeah, those 2 early KOs were absolutely, I could not talk about them on the show today. I just could not do it. And of course, what I did wait for, if you noticed the lighting drop or whatever, I did wait for the U.S. Open to finish. All right, and ladies and gentlemen, Oakmont was putting paws on these boys. Oakmont had these men in hell. They were stressed, crashing out. The scores were crazy. For what, we've become accustomed to with the under par play, this was kind of mental, seeing the entire leaderboard over par at one point in time. Sometimes multiple shots over par. Oakmont was giving these boys the work. But JJ Spawn, who started off his day 5 out of the first 6 holes, bogeyed. Thought it was done with. He storms all the way back and, hits a putt for the absolute life. The putt of a lifetime to win the U.S. Open, and Professor McIntyre, who was just kind of sitting there at that, over 1, looking for that playoff tomorrow. And Spawn just said, nope, it's my time. All right, nobody expected it, but this is my time. Probably one of the clutchest putts I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, credit to him. Finishes the only man under par, unless Vic, I cut it off to record this. So unless Vic got it done on 18 to, maybe get even, which would have taken like an eagle, Spawn was the only man under par, okay, at Oakmont this year. But yeah, well-deserved. All right, from being clutch, well-deserved. Of course, easily his first major, and probably the first time you ever heard about JJ Spawn. So, congrats to him on winning the U.S. Open. With that said, though, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is it for episode 254. And without further ado, hope you guys had a good week. Like I said, happy Father's Day, all right? And June continues. Ocho signing off.